Hey guys, welcome back to Nerd Crave. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for my first 30 subscribers. 32 I think we're actually sitting at now. You don't know how much that means to me. I wanted to share with you today a little bit of something personal. Why did I start a YouTube channel? Just take a little bit of time to get to know me and why I'm here on this platform. I've wanted to do this for about 5 or 6 years, and for so many reasons I made up for myself, so many excuses why I shouldn't do this over the years. I always had an excuse, whether it was technology, I didn't have the right cameras, I always thought I needed like a really professional DSLR or something of that nature that I couldn't afford, or I just had other priorities, or my creative skills were lacking, and they definitely still are. Video editing and things like that are pretty new to me. Nerves being on camera, obviously. I've been nervous about putting myself out there, even though I've been putting myself out there on paper for decades, contributing to websites and making my own website and, Facebook groups and all that sort of thing. And of course I have a face for radio. But I have a long history of nerdy content. I have a lot of things that I want to share with you over the coming years. I have 100+ videos planned out, ready to go. It's just a matter of getting them out the door. I started off over a decade ago, made my own website called nerdmovie.com. I don't have that website anymore, but I spent several years populating that with all kinds of movie reviews. A friend of mine and I put together what we considered to be the top 100 nerd movies of all time, and I actually made that list and put it on IMDb, and that list got well over 250,000 views. It was a subject that was interesting to people, and so we started to promote that across various platforms, from Reddit to different websites. Eventually, around the second season of the TV show Chuck, I got involved in Zachary Levi's website, nerdmachine.com, and started heavily promoting my articles and reviews there, and had quite a few of my articles published on his website, which was fantastic. And that was a fantastic community to be involved in. I learned a lot about being a member of the kind of nerd community. I learned what it was like. From that, I started going to comic book conventions. A friend of mine and my friend was very artistic, so we started doing some fan art and actually selling at conventions. We went to several different conventions over a period of 4 or 5 years in our local area. Really got to know the community, got to understand the ebb and the flow of what people like and what people don't like. Whether it's in comics or movies or video games, we really got to feel like we understood what was popular and what was not. Whether it was Doctor Who or Attack on Titan, we could really start to understand what people wanted to see and hear and talk about. As far as video games go, I do talk a lot about video games on this channel. Video games are something that's very important to me. I consider myself to be an active collector of video games. My collection is small compared to other people, but I have consistently focused on games that really interest me, things that I want to own, things that I want to play. My video game collection, I think, is sitting around 530 titles, crossing PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, original Xbox, Xbox 360, Nintendo DS and 3DS, Wii U, quite a few systems. The reason why most of my collecting habits are in the 2000s area in terms of those generations is because I quit gaming early in the PS2's life cycle. My last real system was the PS1. I did have a PS2, and I did have, a handful of games on the PS2 when it was early in the PS2's life cycle. But then I moved on. I'm 42 years old, so around that time I was, having my first kid, and I was working, multiple jobs, and, just moving on with life, right? So I moved away from gaming, and when I came back about, 5 years ago or so, the first thing I did was buy a PS2 and pick up where I left off. I bought the PS2 because it covers both the PS1 and the PS2 libraries, and I started collecting. The first games that I bought were Final Fantasy VII and Gran Turismo 1 through 4, because those were some of my favorite games on both platforms. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I just started picking up cheap games wherever I could find them, and before you know it, I had a couple of hundred games, and then 300 or 400 games, and then I sold some of the ones that I had kind of bought impulsively that were shovelware. I've done spring cleaning a couple of times and sold off 50 or 60 games and tried to refine my collection. But most of my collecting at this point spans between PS1 and PS3 era. I do not have a PS4 or an Xbox One or a Switch. I always tend to stay one full generation behind because I like to buy games when they're cheap, for one, and also because I like to really have a good feeling for the console and know which games were really popular and which games were not, and be able to buy games that are not buggy anymore. They've got maybe complete editions or definitive editions that I can buy. So I generally stay pretty much a full generation behind. Just at the end of the 3DS's lifespan a few months ago, when they more or less shut down the 3DS, is when I bought a new 3DS XL, and I'm just diving into that library now, and I'm really enjoying it. So why did I want to start a YouTube channel? I've been involved in comic books. I ran a successful comic book auction site on Facebook for quite some time. I do have currently about 2,500 comic books, which again is a small collection, small but mighty. I've been heavily involved in Disney, as you can see behind me. I have quite a lot of comic books, Disney stuff especially. I'm a big fan of Carl Barks, who is the creator of Uncle Scrooge and kind of the granddaddy of the Donald Duck line of characters. I'm also a big fan of Don Rosa, who came along in the 90s with Gladstone Comics, and he also did a lot of work in European books. William Van Horn. There are some fantastic artists out there that I do follow. I also follow some superhero stuff. I obviously love the Marvel movies and the Marvel Universe, but I've kind of decided when I got into comic book collecting that I would stay away from superheroes for the most part, because those are A, extremely expensive collections to get complete collections of, and B, absolutely overwhelming in terms of the history and the scope of those storylines. Something like Superman goes all the way back to 1937. There are over 1,000 issues of Action Comics. There are close to 1,000 issues of Superman. There are so many spin-offs. It's just, at this point in time, for an average guy, it is impossible to get a full collection of Superman comic books. And the same goes for a lot of the popular characters, Spider-Man, Batman. Obviously, these things are out of reach for the average man. But video games, especially the ones that I am particularly nostalgic for in that PS1, PS2 era, they're quite affordable. So I have really moved over to collecting video games in the last couple of years. I still buy comic books, but I spend a lot more time and money invested in my video game collection. So again, why did I start YouTube? I want to share my experiences with you. I want to share the things that I've learned in the nerd community with you. And I was trying to find a way to do that. I had recently started watching YouTube. I say recently, I mean, I've always watched YouTube here and there, but 2-ish years ago, in a conversation with my son, who's also super nerdy, I used to say things like, why the hell do you watch that stupid YouTube all the time? It's just random people talking about random stuff. Like, why don't you go watch Netflix, where there's $100 million production to watch? You just watch this stupid people playing video games. Go play the game yourself, But I actually started watching YouTube here and there, looking up things about video games, because I wanted to know more about the video games that I was buying. And there's a lot of games, because like I say, I moved out of video games early in the PS2's life cycle, and even when I had a PS1, I only had maybe 20 games or something back in the day for the PS1. There's over 700 games in the PS1 library. So every time I bought a game, I would go to YouTube and look up some kind of a review on it. And I started to discover different people, and the first person that I really discovered was Metal Jesus Rocks. Metal Jesus Rocks immediately hooked me in because I was trying to learn about video game collecting, and that guy gives so much information between his top 10 videos, his hidden gems videos, and his getting started in collecting for consoles videos. I went through his library and watched just about every one of his videos, and I started to get really interested in the concept of learning stuff on YouTube and being immersed in content about the community that I'm interested in. So then I moved through the Metal Jesus community. I got to know Radical Reggie, I got to watching Immortal John Hancock, and then I saw a crossover video where John Hancock was at a convention in Vancouver, Canada, and he did a video with Happy Console Gamer. And I thought, hey, this guy's pretty cool. So then I started watching Happy Console Gamer, and I'm a huge fan of him at this point. I watch everything that he does. I'm absolutely just a nerded out fanboy over Happy Console Gamer. Another crossover I saw was a video with Metal Jesus where he did a game hunting episode with Woodhawker from Beat 'em Ups. I started watching Beat 'em Ups on a regular basis. Through Beat 'em Ups, I was introduced to Spawn Wave and RGT85. And through all this, I was starting to get more and more ideas for content, and not to say that I want to copy these guys or emulate them, but they were giving me ideas for things. They were doing things that I had wanted to do for years, decades, and it really got me interested in, okay, how could I make this a reality? What technology do I need? What do I need to say to people? But the final straw for me was a small YouTube channel that I discovered through my favorite Facebook gaming group, which is Console Purist on Facebook. If you're not a member of Console Purist, you really should join, check it out. It's a fantastic group where the members, there's I think over 20,000 members in the group, and they're dedicated to talking about console games particularly, but original equipment, original software, rather than talking about so much. I mean, we do talk a little bit about emulation, but the idea is that we want to celebrate playing the original games on the original hardware as much as possible. Through this group, I came to know a guy who started a YouTube channel recently called Papa Pete, the Old Ass Gamer. I started watching his videos here and there, and I realized that this guy, he's 10 years older than me at least, and he's just as passionate about games as I am, but he started from nothing, and he was able to put together a YouTube channel to talk about the things that he was passionate about. He talks a lot about Intellivision because I guess that's his favorite system, and he's doing some amazing things on his channel, and he's really pulling it together. And I thought, you know what, if Papa Pete can do it, I can do it. There's no reason why if all these people out there can put it together. And I'm not looking for 1 million subscribers. I mean, that would be nice. I'm not going to turn them away. I'm not looking to make a full-time income on YouTube. I just want to have an outlet to share the things that I'm passionate about with you. So here we are today with over a dozen videos, and I'm having so much fun sharing these things with you. And I'm having so much fun planning the content that's coming in the next few weeks, the next few months. I can't stop, putting pen to paper and planning out episode after episode after episode. And I want to thank you, the viewer, for sticking with me through this and making this a possibility for me. Thank you. Stay classy, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of the video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. It helps me so much. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I would appreciate it, or even a thumbs down. Either way, It gives me an idea of what you want to see, what you like and what you don't like. And by all means, leave me a comment. Who are your favorite YouTubers? What are your favorite video games? What do you collect? Do you collect comic books, trading cards, video games, movie posters, Blu-rays, toys and action figures? What do you collect? What are you passionate about? This is what I want to know. What are you passionate about? Because I would like to tailor my content not only to what I'm passionate about, but talking about things that are going to connect with you and bring you more into the community with me. Thanks, guys.